So I'm going to run through this quickly. Like I said, this is available for you, so you can watch it as many times as you want. You can look at the small print as much as you want. I'm just going to, Sadie, you're welcome to move forward.
I actually, after having to look over a monitor for the last hour, I have a clear, what's the right word, unobscured view of the screen.
Oh, you appreciate that, huh?
I do.
Okay, cool.
Nothing personal.
I know. Okay, so in the world of youth soccer, there's 3 general categories, and I just want to make you aware that in parents' decisions in where to put their kids, there is a free flow. So usually there is a half season or full season requirement for paying, which makes some people feel like they want to stay at a particular level. But for example, when we moved to Iowa, it was too late for my son to get into the competitive level. The deadline had passed. So for half the season, he had to play in rec. But then after that, he was able to move. So people can go through the various levels at different points in time. Additionally, know that there is this push nowadays for BIDI programs where soccer is starting at 2.5 years old. And that and school-related teams are not included in the general categories of youth soccer because those are very closed, exclusive sorts of opportunities. Yep.
Can you define the mini soccer?
It's ages 2.5 to 4.5. Not every club offers that. This is one way that some people are talking about increasing soccer. I'm giving you a listing of some of the more popular kinds of leagues that there are. Where appropriate, I put the appropriate name. Where the Des Moines Menace plays is called U.S. Youth Soccer, and that is the largest of the national bodies, but certainly there are others that are serving a purpose and size doesn't matter. So for example, in AYSO, the American Youth Soccer Organization, in different parts of the country that is tremendously popular. Some places it is exclusively the only type of soccer. Their philosophy is everybody plays and everybody plays equal minutes. So in some communities, that's the only kind of soccer that there is. In Des Moines, that's one of the smaller options, but it's still available. So I'm going to go through some of these, and also know that a few of these are newer than others. So the ECNL, for females only, is newer than U.S. Youth Soccer, okay? And so we run the gamut from those that are offshoots of the professional organizations, the MLS youth clubs. The U.S. Development Academy, of course, is looking for the best players. And on the other end, we have YMCA-based soccer, which is very recreational and usually for very limited periods of time. They're not like season long. Okay, I know this is small, but this is yours forever, so you can look at it on your own. Within U.S. Youth Soccer, which is the league that the Menace plays in, there are nearly 3 million youth across the country that play in U.S. Youth. And the information here divides it by region and state within region. So if you're curious about the numbers for Iowa as compared to neighboring states, there's your place, okay? There are over 33,000 registrants within the state of Iowa, and actually I was surprised to find that that meant that we're actually medium-sized. When we get categorized in meetings and they have the large associations, medium and small associations, I started to gravitate to the small, and they were like, nope, Iowa is not small. Just to put that in perspective for you.
Is that because of like total number or percent of population?
It's total number of registrants. So on a per capita basis, there are more soccer players here than in other states.
So it is per capita?
No, it's total numbers. I'm just saying to compare, yeah. Okay, and why do clubs join leagues? Generally speaking, there's 3 reasons. First of all, you want to be with like-minded people. So the way that you want to run your club, what are your interests? For example, a new club emerged not 5 years ago here in the Metro. They didn't want to participate in a league because they were so concerned about the cost of youth soccer. That was their driving force. What they realized was if they weren't part of a league, they weren't going to be able to get games against other teams. So they had to eventually join a league. So there's different things that will draw you together. So skill levels of players, like this new club. They started out because they wanted to be the low-cost alternative, and then they realized in order for them to get good competition, they would have to join a league. So the second point came about. Also, the better soccer comes with better coaches. So if you want to move from volunteer coaches to professional coaches, or some hybrid semi-professional coaches, that might also draw you into a league where there's certain expectations for how skilled the coaches are. And more importantly than all of that is, at the league level is where insurance is offered. So at the low-cost club, your kid gets their front teeth knocked out, that's out of your pocket, thank you very much. If you belong to a league, if the front teeth were knocked out during a game and the reports indicate that, if there are witnesses to that, the insurance will cover the cost of whatever the repair is. Okay, I was an AR at a game one time, for example, where a player came full force, cleats up into the goalkeeper's face, and it required an ambulance to take him to the hospital, and eventually he had stitches both inside and outside of his mouth. And all of the referees had to submit reports, but that allowed the insurance to kick in, so then the parents didn't have to pay anything out of pocket for any of that. So this is a deciding factor that very often people don't even think about when they're signing their kids up for a team. So US Youth Soccer, as the league that the Menace is part of, they offer insurance, and US Youth Soccer prides themselves as being the best insurance coverage. And again, you know, there are people who think, I'm gonna sign my kid up for soccer because it's a non-contact sport. Well, that's not true. And at some point, if their child keeps playing and they realize how much physicality there is there, and they'll realize how important insurance is that worth choosing one club over another? I don't know, that's a personal opinion. But all of the clubs have all of these options and many more. I gave you the website here. Yep.
Are all the teams at the Menace under USC Soccer then?
Yes. Now, they have a new academy team, and they're trying to get them competing with other academy teams, but this is in flux right now here in this state. In other states, they would not be allowed. As an independent club, even if they had a great academy level team, they wouldn't be allowed. But here, because things are just recently developing, it's in flux, so right now they're allowed. So someplace like Shattuck St. Mary's,
yeah,
okay, they could play a Shattuck team at the U18 level. In other places, that just wouldn't be allowed. Okay, so US Youth Soccer is a national body. Every state has its own state association. So Iowa Soccer is the local touch point, and they're headquartered on Merle Hay Road, so it's not far at all there. Again, I'm giving you a web address, so if you want to check them out, you can do that too. Here is where most people who are thinking about sports begin the decision-making of where should my kid play, okay? Cost is a huge factor, and the larger the league is, the more cost there's going to be. The higher the level of soccer, the more fee there's going to be. And I'm going to give you some examples. Again, this is yours to keep, so you can look at this forever. At the rec level, the little kids on a half-year basis are paying either $150 for the half year at the youngest level or $250 for the next up age group, and that's purely recreational soccer. So teams within the Menace family will be playing each other. That's what that means. Okay, so there's no travel involved at those ages, and it's just for the fun of it. Okay. We get on, here's where the fields are, you probably know that. We get to the next higher level, which is the competitive level. And that is, in Iowa, that competitive level is called Iowa Soccer League. It's ISL within ISA. Nothing like confusing Iowa. But this is where finances start to get tricky, because some costs come from the state association, come from the national association, and then there's club imposed fees as well. So I've tried to lay this out for you so that you can see over here, there is an individual cost per player, but there's also an individual team cost. And that's just the beginning, because that $195 is just to register your team with the league. After that, additional fees are based on how many games you're going to play, because there's fees associated with, in other words, the rental of the field and the cost of the referees. So all of that has to be calculated. Yep.
So is the $195 fee is it for the entire team, or is it and split up among the players, or is that per person?
That's per team.
Okay.
But all that gets you is you are now qualified to be in the database as a team.
That's just like for the season.
Yeah. That's like an entry fee.
What's like the average number of people on a team though?
800, 900, 1100.
On a team?
No, not on a team.
That's per person.
Oh, you mean the cost?
Yeah.
Okay, 809. Okay, I was just like wondering, curious.
So you have to get like a player card. Like when you register with one of these leagues, you have a player card, and so you pay like that $11.50 for your player card.
Yeah.
But that's usually processed through the club and probably.
Right.
Is there a payment plan?
And that includes all of the rest of this,
plan
because if you read the small print, it says all of these fees go through the club.
Like how their club administration will do it.
Okay,
Sometimes.
I'm just curious.
Right.
Payment plan might be information to know.
Yeah. So, but you would have to go to every individual club to figure out what their costs are. And again, it's going to vary by how many games you play, because how many times do you pay the referees?
Because this would, like, those fees would probably go through the club. Those would never
Right.
be like a player-facing fee. Does that make sense? Like, that's what the club would get charged, and then the club would charge the player something
Right.
for that.
Right.
So it wouldn't necessarily.
So I want to show you how complicated this is, because one of the things that Iowa Soccer does is the interim organization is they help teams schedule competition. So you say, I have a team in West Des Moines, I'd like them to play around 10 games for this half of the year. So then they have a database and they set up the games by day and location. So I'm just giving you two different examples from here. This one is by date across the entire state. And this particular grouping is the youngest boys in the database at the lowest level of competition. So they're one step above recreational. At that same age level, there's going to be different levels of competition, right? So this is one day of the youngest kids at the easiest level. On the other hand, this is another look at the calendar, which is, I think it's a weekend, and this is just in the metro. It's the youngest boys in there, and it's by club, and what I tried to do is list out what those clubs are that are included in there, so you kind of get an idea of what's considered metro, like from Ankeny down to Indianola, from Altoona to Waukee. So every club doesn't have to go find who they're going to be playing and figure it out. Iowa Soccer does that for them. So here's something interesting. I was talking about US Youth Soccer. They are the largest of the organizations, and yet they have been losing members depending on part of the country that you're in. And so state directors and assistant directors, there should be 100 of them, right? 2 people from each state. They did have a response of 92, so a few people didn't answer. I don't know where they're from. But here's information. What do they see as being the #1 competitor to US Youth Soccer? And it's an organization called US Club Soccer, okay? They have smaller entry fees. They have fewer rules. They have the minimum amount of insurance that they can get by with, but they're a huge threat. And at least to US Youth Soccer. And remember, US Youth Soccer is where the menace function. So here's an example for you. Just about 2-3 years ago, a new club within US Club Soccer formed on the western side of Iowa with an alliance with the eastern side of Nebraska. Of course, both Iowa and Nebraska have a US Youth Soccer presence. And when you think of the eastern side, there's a lot of competition between Des Moines and Omaha. But US Club Soccer decided that's fertile ground to come in and try to get other people to leave US Youth Soccer and come to US Club Soccer. Why? They say that there's going to be better scheduling, fewer costs, and what they're calling opportunities for coaches to have more say in the kind of competition that there is. Okay, I'm both an insider and an outsider. I can tell you on the inside there's politics everywhere. So if you're telling me coaches have more say, that both excites me and makes me crazy. Okay, because you get one coach who, all of a sudden decides they're going to take control, and who knows where they're going to end up. But this is a real problem. The menace are not just trying to grow soccer, they're trying to protect the families that have already affiliated with them so that they're not going to go find another club someplace. Yep.
Would this be a competition with, this wouldn't be a competition with Menace as much as it would with Iowa Soccer Association.
That's right. But
so the Menace it geographically doesn't really make sense for them, but like if that would be the case if there were a Central Iowa US Club Soccer, Menace could move their teams to that.
They could. Accurate? The other problem is if there are fewer kids playing, for example, JUSC, that used to be Johnston and Urbandale separate, and they had to join forces so that there would be enough kids around. Mm-hmm. Well, if this is taking kids away from US Youth Soccer, they can't play those teams. So like it used to be West Des Moines and Omaha, and different clubs in Des Moines and Omaha clubs would have weekends where
so
they would.
Less competition within there.
That's right, that's right. So then you have fewer choices. So that's a problem. And then, I just wanted to conclude, this wasn't like a big deal here, but I just want to conclude that the Menace still say they want to grow the sport of soccer. So by growing it, does that mean they're okay with families leaving? Does that mean that they're going to encourage more opportunity? I can give you the inside story of the one new club. I said a few years ago they wanted to be the low-cost alternative. And they realized that they couldn't play the other teams, because if your club doesn't carry the same level of insurance, we're not going to let our kids play them. So if you're not part of US Youth Soccer, we're not going to consider playing you. This low-cost club wanted competition, so eventually they had to ask for admission into US Youth Soccer. So there went their paradigm about being the low-cost representative. Well, what happened was, at the same time, about the same time, that's when JUSC emerged. What used to be Johnston and Urbandale merged. And so they're saying, why do we need another club in Urbandale when we already realize we don't have enough kids there? So this created huge controversy, and there were a lot of coaches that were very against this new club emerging. But eventually they did. So, growing soccer, I'll say, as what they're talking about is they want to grow soccer their way. So I'll just leave it at that. Yep.
Is this general PDF from the Menace, or is it something you just compiled together?
I put this together.
Okay. I just wanted to see if this was part of their branding or not.
Nope. So I wanted to give you more than the Menace story. The Menace story wouldn't be able to give you all of the data. I'm sure they would, but they wouldn't be happy to be digging in and getting data to you. Mm-hmm.
I noticed that the dates on the chart is 2014, 2015. Mm-hmm. Is there a more updated version of that, or do
Not
they
that
do
I have
it?
my hands on.
Okay. Would it be on their website?
Probably not.
Okay. I was curious. It's always good to have the most recent data. I wasn't sure if it was
because I used to be on the state board that I had information.
I wasn't
don't
sure
know if it's generally available.
If they
and
did
I
it
did
every
check.
4
There was
years.
nothing that said that this was confidential information. So I checked everywhere where that report came from, and it didn't say confidential. But it wasn't from a website. It was something that was sent to me as a board member.
So U.S. Youth Soccer. Okay. So Iowa Soccer is the Iowa office for the U.S. Youth Soccer.
Right.
So the Iowa Soccer office reports to U.S. Youth Soccer.
Correct.
Does that mean they might have some more information that, just from not just, so maybe just Iowa, or maybe just stuff they get passed on from, stuff that U.S. Youth Soccer passes on?
They might.
Okay. Just curious. Merle is very close, so.
Indeed it is.
Do you know where the MRL fits into this? Is that under US Youth Soccer?
So no, MRL is not part of youth soccer. Oh, you mean the the academy teams?
The league. MRL.
The league is not part of youth
There are
soccer.
teams who participate in both ISL
Oh,
and
I'm
MRL.
sorry. MRL.
The Midwest.
I'm
Regional
getting
League.
right. I'm getting my acronyms mixed up. So MRL is made up of the top achieving clubs of US Youth Soccer.
Right, so it is within it?
Yes. Yes.
So I know there were times where our teams would participate in both the ISL and the MRL.
Right.
What's the MRL?
So
The
MRL,
Midwest Regional League.
it's the top team of every age group, male and female. So within the region, it would be more or less the top clubs. They would have,
It's supposed to be more competitive because you
Right.
have state lines.
right.
So does Des Moines Menace not cross state lines to compete against teams?
Well, see, they would have had to have won the state cup at their age division the
Oh,
year
I mean-
before in order to qualify.
I mean younger, just in general, when they have their
Not
general.
usually.
Okay,
Like
no.
academy level would not. MRL, you don't have to win anything to.
Yeah, you did. You would have had to.
You don't have to win state cup though.
You don't have to win, but you have to have shown
Qualify.
success at multiple years of being a finalist.
Okay, and
But
then
there would be multiple teams from Iowa. So for example,
That's it.
how many teams in Iowa are there? Just out of curiosity.
it varies by age group.
Right,
level.
see, that's the thing, like some years there might be
There's a
4
lot of
teams
different
of
organizations
12-year-old
within
girls.
everything.
You're welcome. Other years there might be 3 teams at U12 girls. So there's constant fluctuation.
So will they compete against those teams multiple times then to make up the season? So like they'll compete
No.
against. Okay.
Well, they might,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Sometimes at lower levels.
Depends, because one of the other things that is set is how far do you want to travel? How are, they ask the coaches, how far are you willing to have your kids travel to play competition? So if they say only within the metro, 20-mile radius, then they're going to repeat some teams.
Does the Iowa Soccer League have a winner? That's set up, or is that
The
just-
league itself does not. You would have to go on to
Standings.
state cup. Right, and standings. But those standings are based on its age group, gender, and skill level, right? So you could have, for example, a U15 team that is so good that they're gonna wanna play against U17 teams. So they would be in a older age bracket. So for every skill level, it's not just the age group, but the skill level. There could be, you could look at the standings by that and see the theoretical winner, but there's no recognition given to those.
Okay. It's not like, because like for the MRL, there you do get points for each game.
Right, yeah, but not in Iowa Soccer. They're trying to de-emphasize the records in Iowa Soccer. So you still want to compete, but it's more for developmental purposes to be a better player. Although if you're a competitive player, you're going to be interested in the records, right? There's no getting around that. Nobody who's playing U16 travel soccer is there for the fun of it. Or purely for the fun. I have to get going. I have a meeting at 3:30.